What more are they saying about why Weisler is leaving?
Yeah, I mean, I had a chat with them both briefly ahead of the announcement, and Dion really assured me, look, this is something personal to him. It's not a decision he took lightly, and really he just has to go back to his native Australia to deal with his family situation. So, according, if you take him at his word, there's no background story here. There's no, corporate scandal. There's no push out. There's nothing like that going on.
All right. Well, Dan, shares of HP have gained 55% since Weisler took over. He took over as the split happened with HPE. He's grown revenue, profitability. What's the impact on the company?
Well, it's interesting, Emily, because, we go back to Meg Whitman coming in and splitting up these two companies, and everyone was putting their money on HP Enterprise, right? Because that was the most exciting part of HP, and the old printer and PC business was really, really boring, right? So it's kind of interesting to see HP Inc., the kind of HPQ, doing so well. And, it looks like they had a pretty good quarter, Emily. I noticed that printing was down about 5%. I know that there were concerns in the previous quarter surrounding slowness and growth in that area. But it looks like personal computing was up around 3%. So overall, looked like a pretty good quarter. Or at least they had a beat in terms of, top and bottom line in terms of the consensus estimates.
So, Ian, tell us a little bit more about Lores and the guy who is replacing Weisler at the top, a 30-year vet, started as an engineering intern, navigated part of the split as well, certainly was there during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important sort of take forward from this is that, in the release, in what he had to say, is very, very heavily emphasizing that this is a man who has spent the last year working with the board in effect on a strategic review. And the main sort of pick out from the language that they used around this was, basically improving the cost structure, improving, the way that the company does business. So I think investors will focus on that, and they'll look for him to explain exactly what he means. How does he think he can make the company more efficient? And obviously people would typically focus on, job cuts, on reducing that headcount. Apparently October the 3rd is when he's going to talk to investors like Dan about what his plans are.
So, Dan, even though Dion Weisler has been able to improve the balance sheet, you've still got a PC market that is stagnant. What are the challenges ahead for HP Inc., and who's the main competition?
Very right, Emily. I mean, you think of, HPQ, I mean, we remember back when they bought Compaq, right? They became the #1 PC player, and it is a very mature business. They did edge out about 3% growth in the quarter, which is pretty strong. But it does kind of make you scratch your head on, how can they make this thing grow? And, they have been relying, as Ian knows, mostly on share repurchases and terms of increasing their dividend, which is over 3%, and that's been what's kind of been driving a lot of the attraction to the stock. They've got some new 3D printing technology they've been working on that Wall Street is excited about. But you're right, Emily, in terms of their core business, which is PCs, I mean, the Gartner and IDC data comes out, you're looking at, very, very low growth or no growth at all. So how do you continue to move forward when your environment is so negative? And it is a big challenge for HPQ.
HP has been impacted by the trade issues happening between the U.S. and China. Obviously, they manufacture many of their devices in China. Dan, how does that change your view on the company, and is it impacting where you're placing your money?
Well, we have a pretty good position in both HP Enterprise and HPQ. We owned it before the stock split, so we would look at it more as a dividend stock in regards to investment. In regards to tariffs, I mean, they are a company like a lot of the semiconductor companies and potentially Apple that will be heavily scrutinized from a tariff perspective. As you mentioned, Emily, they do have production facilities over there. They'll be subject to potentially, being some sort of retaliative type of tariff that the Chinese government could push against them. So that is something that we have to kind of monitor in terms of the fundamentals going forward with the company. But at this point, we're just holding our shares.